The series opens up with Josh, a socially awkward nurse, as he walks into the woods and takes his clothes off. Meanwhile, his friend Aiden is on a date with their colleague, Rebecca. All three of them work as nurses at the Suffolk Hospital in Boston. The night takes a sinister turn when Josh begins to transform into a werewolf. On the other hand, Rebecca asks Aiden to join her for a glass of wine in her house. Unbeknownst to her, Aiden is a vampire and is currently struggling to keep his homicidal tendencies at bay. Eventually, he gives in, and the two make their way inside. As they make love, he begins to lose his control, and hunger takes over lust. He sinks his fangs into her throat and drinks her blood, killing Rebecca. The following morning, Josh is miserable after his latest full moon transformation resulted in him waking up next to a mutilated deer carcass in the woods. He then grabs some clothes from a nearby clothesline and walks home in a dress, while his friend, Aiden, enlists the help of another vampire named Marcus to remove the body of his victim. He asks for the help reluctantly as Marcus belongs to a vampire legion that Aiden left years ago. Later that day, they arrive at their jobs as nurses, where Aiden floats the idea of getting an apartment together. He thinks living together would allow them to help each other become normal people. However, Josh refuses the idea, calling it useless. Their conversation is interrupted when they run into a new visiting nurse, who is filling in for Rebecca. She reveals that Rebecca didn't show up at work and has been missing since last night. A little later, Aiden sees Marcus, the vampire who helped clean up his mess last night, at the hospital. He follows him into a room and finds Marcus sizing up an old, unconscious patient. It is revealed that he is there to recruit humans in influential positions on the orders of his boss, Bishop. But before he can bite the patient, Aiden stops him and says that hospitals are not supposed to be hunting grounds for vampires. The two then have a brief scuffle as Marcus yells that he is second in command at the Vampire Legion. Just as they unleash their fangs and are about to jump at each other, a nurse knocks on the door. The two vampires hurriedly revert back to their normal demeanor and leave the room. At lunchtime, Josh and Aiden seriously discuss the prospect of living together to try to lead a normal life. They share their bad habits with each other and have a laugh at the idea of a werewolf and vampire living together. Although Josh was reluctant that very morning, he agrees to the plan as he could not bear living a socially isolated life. The following day, they find out what seems like the perfect apartment for themselves. The home is old and slightly shabby but has enough potential to be reworked into a good living space. However, when they talk to the owner of the apartment, they find out that he and his fiancée used to live there. The owner moved out after the tragic death of his girlfriend in the same apartment. In order to convince them to rent out the apartment, the owner throws in the free furniture, no credit check, and weekend checkups on the drainage systems. Without further hesitation, the two nurses decide to move in. As the two friends clean up their new apartment, they meet Sally, the ghost of the girl who died there. She is used to people not being able to see or talk to her but sensing her presence. However, when both Aiden and Josh clearly see her and talk to her, Sally rejoices. After years of loneliness, she finally has people who she can interact with. On the other hand, Josh is irritated and disturbed by the idea of having a ghost live with them. But Aiden asks him to give Sally time to find her way so they can all live together and try to be normal. That day at work, Aiden takes Josh to the basement of their hospital. He has searched and found, deep in the recesses of the hospital, a large room with a thick metal door. He then urges Josh to stay inside the room during full moon nights so he can change without going out and killing anyone. Upstairs, after working on a patient's surgery, Aiden fights visions of killing Rebecca. He is having a hard time controlling his violent urges as the patient's blood soaked his scrubs. Suddenly, he runs into the new nurse, Kara, who immediately begins a conversation with Aiden. She says she has been with the police all day while they recanvass the area, investigating the murder of Rebecca. On the other hand, Josh smells a familiar scent at the hospital. To his surprise, the scent belongs to his sister, who is currently at the hospital, talking to one of the doctors. Scared, he goes home to clear up his mind and spend some time alone. However, Sally immediately begins bombarding him with unnecessary information. She asks him to call her fiancé, Danny, so she can try to move on. Upset at seeing his sister at the hospital, he lashes out at her, and the two end up in an argument. Meanwhile, Aiden is falling deeper and deeper into the investigation surrounding Rebecca's mysterious murder. He gets grilled by an officer regarding his relationship with the victim. However, Bishop, the head of the Legion of Vampires, is also present at the investigation as the chief of Boston Police. He uses his psychic powers and convinces his junior officer to drop the interrogation and leave Aiden alone for the moment. Once the two vampires are alone, Aiden pleads with the boss to wipe his name out of the case. Bishop replies that he can do it but asks Aiden to rejoin the Legion in return. The next day, Josh walks into a hospital room where a female patient is kissing his sister, Emily. She is surprised to see her brothers after so many years. It is revealed that Josh has not contacted his family and friends for 2 years. However, he pleads with his sister to keep his whereabouts a secret. The scene then shifts to a flashback where we see Aiden and Bishop attending a wedding where they eventually feast on the guests. Unable to carry the guilt of murdering an innocent girl, he calls Rebecca's family and informs them that she is dead. When he gets home, Sally admits her struggles with leaving the home. She is afraid she may blow away and never come back if she steps out of the house. This would mean that she would never be able to see her fiancé again. That night, Josh prepares to turn into a werewolf by going into the hospital basement. As the full moon comes up in the sky, he puts in his earphones and casually strolls down the hospital stairs when his sister notices and follows him. Once they reach the room, he finally notices her and begs for her to leave. However, she thinks her brother is trying to avoid a conversation with him and refuses to leave. Desperate, he attempts to push her out the door, but instead, they are both locked inside. In the meantime, Bishop pulls up to Aiden in the street and tells him that the police know he killed Rebecca. He reveals that things are about to change, and he wants Aiden to be a part of it. Curiosity gets the better of our hero, and he climbs into Bishop's car. Soon afterwards, they arrive at an abandoned warehouse where several beautiful sacrificial women seduce Aiden through their bodies and blood. On the other hand, Josh is trying to call his friend for help. When he doesn't answer, he calls the answering machine at their apartment to try to get Sally to help. He urges her to leave, try to track Aiden. Try anything so that he doesn't kill his sister. Suddenly, Josh's fingers contort and large, black nails start growing from them. The scene then abruptly shifts to a montage of flashbacks that shows us the lives of our main characters. Sally lies dead, and a pool of blood is under her head. She wakes up, not fully comprehending what has happened to her, and tries to speak to the several guests who are present in her apartment. Unbeknownst to her, they are present there for her funeral. Only when her fiancé, Danny, passes right through her does it fully sink in that she has passed away from the living world. Next, Aiden is in his Revolutionary War uniform, fighting in the American Civil War. He runs into another soldier, Bishop, who growls at him menacingly. The scene quickly cuts as Aiden wakes up on a pile of dead bodies, his eyes completely black. Finally, Josh comes back to his senses at a campsite. His right shoulder is broken. The dead body of his friend lays right next to him, and the police rummage through the wreckage of the site. When the scene cuts back to the present day, Bishop is talking to Rebecca, who is alive. She is in a strange place, on a bed, while Bishop tries to calm her down. However, she is confused and scared and screams for Aiden. Back at the hospital basement, Emily tells Josh he is scaring her, and he warns her to stay away from him. By this time, he has crawled on the ground, screaming in agony. Thankfully, Aiden manages to control his desire to kill, grabs his phone, and hears a message for help from Josh. He arrives just in time to remove Emily from the room as they watch Josh transform. Following this, Aiden and Emily are in the hospital commissary, where they have a conversation. Aiden tells her that his brother has a condition, but she should ask him for the details. Furthermore, he adds that Josh often speaks of her in highly affectionate ways. Emotional, she reveals that their mom also went crazy, which is what she believes happened to Josh. Later, Josh arrives home, and Sally apologizes for being unable to help. Instead of getting angry at her, Josh tells her that it was not her fault. Soon afterwards, the ghost reveals that she convinces Aiden to call Danny over to the house. She is beyond excited, but Josh thinks it is a bad idea. When Danny arrives at the apartment, he asks if anything weird has happened since they moved in. He goes on to tell them about the night Sally died. It is revealed that a faulty electrical outage caused her to take a wrong turn on the way to the bathroom. Unfortunately, she fell down the stairs to her death. At the hospital, the new girl, Kara, tells Aiden there is some unresolved tension between them and suggests they explore it. As Aiden looks at her, his heart beats heavily in his ears. Outside the hospital, Josh sees a woman looking at the memorial for the lost nurse, Rebecca. To his surprise, he sees it as Rebecca herself and follows her into an empty room. Without warning, she grabs him and tries to bite his neck, revealing that she is a vampire too. However, she smells that Josh is a werewolf and leaves him alone. Following this, Josh confronts Aiden about him turning Rebecca into a vampire. Confused and angry, Aiden goes to Sap and Son's funeral home, a shop run by Bishop. There, he confronts the boss, pointing out that he asked for a cleanup, and that they had no right to turn the nurse into a vampire. Back at their apartment, Sally is sitting at a table, trying to blow paper. Suddenly, she hears a knock at the door. It's Danny. As he tries to read the Plumbing for Dummies book to fix the sink, Sally hovers in his personal space. She talks to him, but when he doesn't reply, she gets upset and causes the pipes to burst. Meanwhile, Josh sees Emily by a hot dog cart, and they have a conversation. She asks her brother if he is doing okay after the harrowing episode of last night. In response, he tells her his life is dangerous and gets even worse than what she saw. However, Emily vows not to allow him to walk out of her life again. On the other hand, Aiden sees Rebecca in the park for the first time after he killed her. She is angry that he left her for dead. Admitting that he couldn't master his hunger while they were together, he replies that he had no idea they would turn her. But Rebecca looks back at her life and feels so much stronger as a vampire. She even wants to hurt people and make them pay for all the trouble they caused her during her life. As a human being, knowing that Bishop has brainwashed Rebecca, Aiden walks away. A few nights later, Aiden is at the bar when Kara comes over to say hello. He politely invites her to sit down with him, but the sound of blood pumping fills his head as the urge to feed slowly starts getting the better of him. He calls Josh and asks him to immediately come to the bar. After warning his friend not to kill Kara, Josh says he will arrive at the bar as soon as possible. In the meantime, Rebecca shows up at the bar and joins Aiden and Kara. She asks the former to come with her on a hunt, but he refuses. At the same time, Kara recognizes her from the missing posters pasted all over the hospital. Meanwhile, Rebecca tries to take a man outside with the intention of feeding on his blood, but Aiden interrupts and threatens the man to leave the girl alone. When the man throws a punch at him, he simply grabs his arm, knocks him over and pushes him to the floor. Fed up, he tries to confront Rebecca, but she is nowhere to be found. Outside the bar, Josh finds Kara bleeding in an alley. Horrified, he places his hand over the bite mark on her neck and tries to stop her from bleeding to death. Suddenly, Aiden arrives at the spot and immediately realizes that Rebecca must have attacked her. However, he refuses to turn her into a vampire to save her life. Instead, the two friends take her to the hospital. Unfortunately, Kara has lost a lot of blood and soon succumbs to her injuries. Bishop, who also arrives at the hospital, is disappointed and asks Aiden whether he chooses the humans or the vampires. Without any hesitation, our hero says it was never much of a question. He chooses humans. Later that night, at the apartment, Josh and Sally talk about Aiden. He now realizes he never understood just how hard it is for Aiden to be who he is. With a newfound admiration, he goes outside to comfort his friend. Later that week, Josh returns home, surprised to find that Aiden has signed them up for the neighborhood watch gang and invited over the neighbors for drinks. One of the neighbors, a policeman by the name of Garrity, recognizes Aiden from his past and soon confronts him at a bar. The policeman thinks Aiden looks like the guy who killed his father several years ago. But Aiden, who looks younger than Garrity, assures him it's impossible. Meanwhile, Aiden and Josh discover another ghost, Tommy, and bring him home to meet Sally. She is thrilled to have a pal that she can actually touch. The two ghosts then start to hang out together, and Tommy even teaches her how to teleport from one place to another. One night, he takes her outside the boundaries of her apartment for the first time after her death. There, he tries to kiss her, but she immediately pushes him away. Sally tells him that she's still in love with Danny. Irritated, Tommy points out that she has to let him go if she wants to move on. Meanwhile, Officer Garrity corners Aiden outside the hospital in a lonesome alleyway. Suspicious of the nurse, he grapples Aiden and tries to have a look at his chest for a tattoo. During their scuffle, Garrity accidentally pushes his opponent onto an exposed iron beam which pierces through Aiden's belly. Taking advantage of his opponent's apparent death, the policeman pulls Aiden's shirt aside and sees the exact tattoo that was on his father's attacker. Suddenly, the nurse comes back to consciousness, which scares the policeman away. Elsewhere, Josh begins to go on night patrols around the neighborhood, looking for a tagger. He begrudgingly gets to know a med school graduate who's about to start his residency at the same hospital he works in. Suddenly, Josh smells fresh paint and locates the tagger immediately. However, he forges that he has werewolf strength and almost kills the man with his bare hands. Elsewhere, Bishop gets word of Aiden's problem and wants to handle it his way. He visits Officer Garrity's home and reveals that he is a vampire. The boss then offers to turn Officer Garrity into a vampire, too. But the policeman panics and runs away, only to be cornered by Marcus. Suddenly, Aiden comes to the policeman's rescue and attempts to erase his memories of the past. On the other hand, Sally's ghost friend takes her to the cemetery to help her come to grips with reality. The ghost explains that he found closure by visiting his ex-girlfriend, who's now happily moved on with her life. Just before he enters a door that takes him to the next step, he tells Sally she can touch humans as long as the human so desires. In the final scene, Bishop visits Aiden and drops off some photos. In a shocking turn of events, Officer Garrity has killed himself. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on the notification, and leave 1,000 likes or 100 comments if you'd like us to continue part 2. Thank you.